5 years ago, during a Super Smash Bros. Direct, I lost my mind at the fact that Simon and Richter Belmont were revealed for Smash Bros. And it set off something in my mind, something I never really felt the need to do before, because I really wanted Simon or some sort of Castlevania representation in Smash Bros. For a long time. I thought it was a perfect fit, and to finally get that was liberating. And to go even further, to have Richter as playable too, one of the characters from the first Castlevania game I ever played, Symphony of the Night, and seeing Alucard there as an assist trophy, it went so hard, and I just felt this desire to go through and play the big ones out of all the Castlevania games, some of which I'd never played before. So I was thinking Castlevania 1, 2, 3, 4, Rondo of Blood, Symphony of the Night, the big ones, you know? Just stick with that. But as I was streaming the very first Castlevania, I received a challenge. Will you play Haunted Castle? And my first thought was, what's Haunted Castle? Well, it turns out to be an arcade-exclusive Castlevania game that had been made available through the Arcade Archives collection. And so I said, you know what? Sure, I'll play Haunted Castle. And I did. It was a nightmare. Wasn't a great game by any means, but I had a ton of fun because of the streaming community and how much people got hyped behind it, and just seeing this piece of Castlevania media that very few had ever witnessed before. And so it sparked an idea. How about I play more than just the highlights of Castlevania? Why don't I play all of Castlevania? And it became one of the most notable things I've ever done, is me streaming every single Castlevania game out there. And I always wanted to come back and try something again with a different series. I always had ideas for, like, maybe I can do it with Mario, maybe I can do it with Sonic, maybe I can do it with whatever else. But the one that always stood out above the rest of me, because it has so many gaps compared to the others and has that same sort of allure as Castlevania for me, was Mega Man. And so I finally started it. I'm playing through every single unique Mega Man game out there. I've made a list. There are 71 unique titles, ranging from ones that you all know about to ones you've never heard of to Japanese exclusives. It is the gamut. Every single Mega Man game that you can think of that is at least unique in how it plays is on this list. And to accompany it this time, I thought it'd be a lot of fun to review each of these games in turn as I beat them. Now, granted, these will come out very quickly with the Classic Series and the X Series, as they're not very long games, but they will take a bit longer once I get to stuff like Battle Network or Mega Man X Command Mission or what have you. Some Mega Man games are just naturally longer than others and will require more streams than before. This is going to be a long project. So let's just kick it off with the very first game in the series, Mega Man 1. And I'm not going to go too in depth with this one because people know Mega Man 1. There have been reviews of this game across so many content creators out there, so many wonderful people that really know the series, can really give their thoughts. And I don't have a whole lot to add except my own history and sort of what the game established. Basically, I'd been made aware of Mega Man for a very long time. I didn't own any of the games. I never picked any of them up. As a kid, I would just see advertisements in kids magazines constantly. Like, here's Mega Man 4, here's Mega Man 5, here's Mega Man 6. I'm like, here's Mega Man 7. I'm like, where are all these Mega Man games coming from? What the heck? There's a Mega Man 10 with Mega Man X? It just blew my mind constantly. It just was ubiquitous, even though I never played them. But they always looked interesting, and I would watch the Ruby Spears cartoon. But I didn't actually play any of them until I rented Mega Man 8 and Mega Man X4 from Blockbuster. And in both cases, I really enjoyed the looks of the game. I really enjoyed the cutscenes of the game because I thought it was extremely novel at the time to have animated cutscenes in a video game. Like, oh, this is awesome. But they were too hard for me. I could not beat them. And I know nowadays these are considered some of the easier Mega Man games out there, but as a newcomer, they were still too hard. And with a mere rental, I just could not beat them. I enjoyed them and they stuck out with me, but I never beat them. And so it wasn't until a friend introduced me to Mega Man Legends that I finally clicked. And it's like, oh, this Mega Man character is really cool. And obviously it's a very different playstyle, but it gave me a connection to the character and eventually inspired me to pick up the Mega Man Anniversary Collection and the Mega Man X Collection, which is where I experienced most of the series. It's one of those things where I've played Mega Man 1 quite a few times. I have a very firm association with it, especially because of the Ruby Spears cartoon, seeing Cutman and Gutsman all the time, and just having this almost bond with it, because I think out of all the classic Mega Man games, it's the one I've played the most, because every time I went to play Mega Man and I had a feeling of playing Mega Man, I would be like, I'm just going to play through all of them in order, and I'd burn out eventually, playing them just back to back to back to back. But of course, I'd always play Mega Man 1, 2, 3, so forth, pretty early on, and I just ended up playing 1 the most. I know the game pretty well at this point, and it's still tricky to go back to because you are slippy with your footing. You can easily just accidentally fall off or have too much momentum where you slide a bit more than you think. But there are ways around it where you can sort of do a little hop. And as soon as you land and you don't push a direction, you will come to a complete stop and not have to worry about that built up momentum or lingering momentum. And of course, there are other aspects that have greatly changed as with future Mega Man games. This is a Mega Man game without any E-tanks. If you get hit by an enemy and fall into pits, in later games, you get the chance to jump out and maybe reach a safe platform. In Mega Man 1, even if you're blinking with damage, you are dying from those spikes. No matter what, you hit spikes, you are dead. Now, that being said, they're not super common, so it's not something that comes up a ton, but it is something that will throw you off quite a bit. Otherwise, I think the designs of the 6 original Robot Masters are fantastic. All of them are iconic in my opinion. They're a bit simple nowadays. Yeah, there's not much to them, but there's something about the profiles of Cutman and Elec Man and Gutsman and Fireman and Iceman and Bombman. They're just classic in every sense of the word. You remember these 6, much more, for me in my case, than many of the later Robot Masters. They're just not implanted in my mind as much. And it's also interesting how much of the story was revealed, because I decided to take a look at the Japanese manuals just to see how much was established. And it really is just that we have Dr. Light, who made good robots, Dr. Wily, who corrupted 6 of these robots that control others and have specific functions, and then you have the robot Rock, who is an assistant to, they're not even listed, it's just you have a robot named Rock who volunteered to be converted into a battle robot in order to fight as Rockman, or Mega Man as was made in the States. And that's it. There's no rivalry. There's no history that Wily and Dr. Light work together. It's just the evil scientist Wily, and he's causing trouble. Go stop him. Because it just drops you right into it in the game. And obviously the English manual had something about Wily running Monstropolis, and it was actually humanoids robots more than anything else. It's like, what is this? It's like, it's mostly the same, but it's just odd enough that it makes you scratch your head. That's the thing, is I don't think any part of this game is too difficult until the final run of Robot Masters. I know a lot of people say Yellow Devil, but Yellow Devil in my mind is not that bad as long as you stick with it. There's a pattern there. You can learn this pattern. And even coming back to it, not having played this game for probably 5 or more years now, it took me a few tries, of course, but I did get it down. Did not have to use the infamous pause glitch in order to just take it down without any issue. The pattern of the Yellow Devil really isn't that bad. And pretty much all the other bosses are relatively simple once you know their tricks. You have the bubble boss that you have to weaken a bit before you actually use Gutsman's power, since that's the weakness and can destroy it immediately, but then you run out of ways to dodge it. So there's traps here that you wouldn't necessarily know the first time around that I benefit from because I've played it multiple times at this point. And that's going to be a key theme. If you've played these games before and know what's coming, you're going to have an easier time. If you're going in blind, there are definite traps that will hold you up, whether it's needing to get the magnet beam in order to get through one section right before Yellow Devil, or of course the bubble boss that I just spoke about. The other odd thing that was changed for later games is the rematches against the Robot Masters. You always have to refight the Robot Masters before you take on Wily. But in the case of Mega Man 1, you fight 2 of them in an earlier stage, just one right after the other, as part of a larger level. And then the other 4 are saved for a gauntlet right before Wily. And let's talk about damage, because some of them do massive hits to you. Some are easier to dodge than others, like Iceman not too hard to dodge, but he hits you 3 times, you're dead. Same with Elec Man, he hits you 3 times, you're dead. But they also take a lot of damage from their weaknesses. And so it becomes sort of a balancing act where you really have to learn their patterns. And for that final gauntlet, I could always mostly manage it, but it's just a matter of maintaining enough health. Because you go into the first one against Bomb Man and you have Fireman's ability. It's not that bad. You can really lock him in and have a relatively easy time against him. And then the next one is Fireman, who's weak to Iceman, but it's not really a quick death. You need quite a few shots from the ice weapon in order to take out Fireman, and every time you fire, he fires, and it's multipliers and leaving lingering fire. You're just going to take a ton of damage, and it hurts. It's one of those things like, God, I just need to get better. How do I avoid this? What is wrong with me? What do I got to do with this? But you'll survive. You'll just be incredibly weak. And thankfully, when it comes to Iceman being weak to the Elect Beam, you get 3 shots off as he's firing his 3 shots. You jump over the last one. You should not get hit as long as you get those 3 shots to land on Iceman. And it's nice, easy time. But then it ends with Gutsman and the fact that he can make you fall over, and you have to sort of pray that the bombs from Bomb Man hit and finding ways to jump over it, and he can lock you into the side where you can't escape, and you're just going to take that damage. And based off how you do against Fireman, you could easily just die. You just don't have enough health. Now, thankfully, there is a checkpoint once you beat them, but of course, if you lose all your lives, you're going to restart that entire level and have to do the gauntlet again. Wily himself, though, not too bad. I think it's a very manageable Wily boss and satisfying to take down. You get the sense of him, you realize what you got to do, and not an issue. It really is fun. And I think that's the key takeaway for me from the original Mega Man, is that it has all the building blocks. They're not at their peak. Absolutely not. They are better versions of this by far. But if you want to see the origins, it's kind of a fun ride. You will be thrown off by certain aspects, for sure. But it's still fun in its own right, and learning those patterns, learning how these things go, adjusting for it. And obviously when you have the anniversary collections, you can rewind, you can take advantage of these modern conveniences that make the game easier, but I have chosen to not use those in order to have an authentic experience, to give my most authentic thoughts. And honestly, the big criticism I have of the game is that the levels themselves are extremely basic, and replaying it, I realized how similar they all felt. They had their own unique level gimmicks at points, but they didn't stand out in any major way other than certain infamous sections, such as Gutsman's moving platforms, where if you mistime it or you hit a spot where it drops, you just fall like a rock. Those stand out to some degree, but for example, Cutman stage, there's not really anything unique about it other than the occasional spots where it spits out cut blades, and that's about it. They're easily dodged, you move on, you don't think about it. There's not a lot of uniqueness with the level design, and thankfully that does get better later on. But otherwise, it's not the best, certainly has its growing pains, but absolutely a classic in my opinion. Thanks so much for watching, and if you want to see more of these off-the-cuff reviews of Mega Man games as I play through the entire series, let me know in the comments, and thank you for joining me just for watching this first video. Of course, you can help us out a ton by subscribing to Good Vibes Gaming, hitting that like button and ringing that bell. We also have a Patreon at patreon.com/dvgaming with plenty of extra perks. Until next time, bye.